It started with an old radio, one of those dusty, wood-paneled relics from the 60s. I found it in my grandfather's attic, buried under yellowed newspapers and dead silence. When I turned the dial, there was nothing but static until I reached 14.215 megahertz. A voice whispered, barely audible, but it said my name. I laughed, then froze, because I hadn't told anyone I was up there. I thought it was a fluke, some frequency overlap. But the next night, the voice came back. Different words, same tone. It repeated a phrase, "Don't look outside." I checked the antenna, the signal source. Everything seemed normal. But the voice only played on that radio. At that hour. From that frequency. It wasn't random. It was waiting. I recorded it. Not just once, but 6 nights in a row. Always between 2:13 and 2:17 a.m. Always with a different message. Some in English, others in distorted languages I couldn't identify. I compared it with weather stations, ham signals, even number stations. Nothing matched. This wasn't interference. Someone or something was broadcasting intentionally. But why? And who else was listening? I uploaded the clip to an EVP forum. Half called it fake. The rest warned me. One user, DeadFreak77, messaged me directly. Stop recording, that frequency is a trap. I asked for proof. They sent a link, an archived broadcast from 1987. Same voice, same phrase. But the guy who recorded it, he disappeared a week later. Vanished. No trace. Just his tape. Still whispering. I listened to that 1987 tape. It had the same strange cadence. Like someone whispering underwater. But it said something chilling. Don't trust the mirror. And then static. Longer than it should have lasted. I timed it 7 seconds flat. But my recorder, it logged it as 13. Like time was stretched. Or like something else got through. Before I shut it off. Before I noticed my reflection didn't move. That night I tested it. Held my phone up, hit record, and stared at the mirror. The reflection blinked. Before I did, I dropped everything and backed away. No drugs, no sleep deprivation. I was fully aware. The voice returned through the static. But this time, it said something new. Look behind you. I didn't, but I heard breathing on the wrong side of the glass. I isolated the audio, ran it through filters. Under the static was a layered pattern. A pulse, not random, more like a code. Each message had this hidden rhythm. I posted the waveform. A stranger emailed me. You've unlocked the cadence. No name, no subject line. Just a second file. When I played it, the static was gone. And the voice said, I see you now. The cadence repeated at exactly 21 beats per minute. Too slow for Morse, too precise for glitch. I printed the waveform. It resembled something. Not a word, but a symbol, a spiraling eye, almost hypnotic. I checked old occult books and found it, buried in a 1972 report from a Soviet radio lab. The symbol meant do not respond. But it was too late. I already had. I didn't sleep. The radio started turning on by itself. No power, no batteries. But every night, the voice came back. One night it said, You are now the transmitter. And my own voice echoed after. Like I'd said it. But I didn't. Or maybe I did. I unplugged the antenna. Still it whispered. Still it pulsed. And then came the knocking. From inside the wall. I moved the radio to the garage. Wrapped it in foil. Buried it in a metal box. Didn't matter. The signal came through my speakers, my phone, even my dreams. It said, "They've marked you." And then silence. But silence isn't safe anymore. Silence now feels like listening, like something on the other end, waiting for me to speak again. So I didn't, until now. The forum where I posted the audio. Gone, vanished overnight. No archives, no user logs. I searched for Dead Freak 77, nothing. Like he never existed. I messaged the admins. They replied with one line. "We never had that username." Then my screen flashed. One frame. A face. Mouth open, pixelated, screaming. I checked the image folder. Empty. But my webcam light stayed on. Next came numbers. Broadcasts at random hours. Strings of digits repeated twice, then silence. 8519. Always four numbers. Never the same. I cross-referenced them with coordinates, dates, frequencies. Nothing matched until I entered them as timestamps. Each one marked a point in my old recordings, where the static got louder, where the voice paused, as if waiting for someone to decode it. I kept a journal, not just of the voice but the distortions it caused. Clocks ran backwards. Light bulbs dimmed in rhythm with the pulse. The dog barked at empty corners. One night I wrote while listening, but when I read it back, it wasn't my handwriting, and I'd signed it with my full name, in Cyrillic. I don't speak Russian, but the voice does. The whispers changed. They no longer spoke to me. They echoed me. I'd say something, and a distorted version would reply. Lagged, slurred, off-pitch. I shut off every mic, but the feedback kept looping. Then came the worst part. The voice didn't stop when I did. It kept talking, telling secrets I never said aloud. Thoughts I'd buried. It knew them, and said them to someone else. I found a file on my desktop, log wev. Timestamp 3:13 a.m. I never recorded it. I played it, my voice breathing, turning pages. Then footsteps, and another voice. Not mine. It whispered. Transcription complete, subject aware. I checked my devices. No apps open. No permissions granted. Still the recordings continued, as if I was the experiment, and someone or something was studying the results. I analyzed the static again. Deep within the sound waves, a face. Frame by frame like an old spectrogram. A hollow-eyed woman. Mouth stitched shut. Same face repeated in every clip. Not random. Embedded. A signature. Others online had seen her too. They called her the listener. She only appears after you've heard the voice 7 times. That night I'd heard it 8. I dreamed of radio towers crumbling into ash. When I woke, my ears rang. Not tinnitus, a tone. 14.215 megahertz. I scanned my body in the mirror. Red patch behind my ear. Shaped like an antenna. Burned, but I'd never left the house. And I'd never touched the radio again. Still the signal kept pulsing. Not from the air, but from me. I reversed one of the recordings. Just a test. Beneath the garbled noise. Clear words. You are the broadcast, you are the door. Then it repeated. She is coming. I checked every reversed file. Same pattern. Same warning. I searched for any folklore or EVP referencing she. Only one hit. A sailor's diary from 1932. He wrote, "Don't let her speak through you." He died the next day. The diary led me to an old audio archive. A reel-to-reel recording from a Scottish lighthouse. Fog, waves, and a woman's voice saying, "I remember you." The signal spiked at 14.215 megahertz. Same as mine. Different continent, same echo. That night, 3 men at the lighthouse vanished. No signs, no struggle, just that tape, still whispering, still playing, long after the power failed. I played all the audio at once, mine, the sailors, the lighthouse. The static synced, the pulses aligned, and then a new voice emerged. Low, gravelly. It said, "She was silenced, now she speaks through you." I paused it. The file renamed itself. Do not mute MP3. When I tried to delete it, the screen went black, and my speakers hissed. She whispered again. "Now you listen." I stopped sleeping, but my sleep tracker kept logging dreams. REM cycles, even audio. I checked the files. Snoring, then a voice. "Soon the silence will end." My mic was disabled. No background apps. But the file kept updating live. Real-time whispers that I hadn't heard yet. She was speaking into the future, and I was the receiver. But the message wasn't for me. It was for someone else. A technician friend helped me scan local signals. When we tuned to 14.215 megahertz, his gear fried. He stared at the waveform, said, "That's not a broadcast, it's a heartbeat." The signal wasn't coming from somewhere. It was alive, and the frequency, not measured in hertz, but in brain waves. It synced with mine, and then I heard him say, "She's using you as her antenna." That night I woke to static, not from the radio, from the air, a humming inside my skull. I opened my eyes, and she was there, not a ghost, not a dream, just static shaped like a woman. No eyes, no mouth. But I felt her speak. She said, "We're almost tuned," and vanished. But my ears kept ringing, like the frequency never left. I tried to go dark, turned off Wi-Fi, phone, electricity. Still heard her, through unplugged speakers, through bone conduction headphones not even charged. She hijacked every circuit, every outlet. Even the microwave blinked 1421. The signal wasn't in the air anymore. It was in everything. The walls pulsed. My thoughts echoed. And when I whispered, she answered, in my voice. I faced the mirror again. The room silent. No static. No power. I whispered, "Are you there?" My reflection smiled before I did. Then its mouth moved slow and wrong. It said, "She is always here." And then my face flickered, like analog TV losing signal. I backed away, but the voice followed, not from the mirror, but from inside the glass, broadcasting back my fear. My computer started generating logs, dozens of TXT files every few minutes, each one filled with the same line. Signal received, host stable. No timestamps. No app opened. Even after unplugging the system, they kept appearing. One file ended differently. It said, "Stabilization ending, prepare for phase 2. That was the first time I felt drained, like something had been feeding. That night her voice changed. Deeper, less human, not angry, hungry. She spoke names, not mine, but names I recognized, users from the forum, local tech operators, even my old neighbor. Some were dead, some had vanished. One of them had been missing since 1987. She whispered, "They called me first, now you relay." It wasn't just my signal anymore. It was collective. I traced the signal using a hacked SDR. It didn't come from a tower. It triangulated to 7 locations, all homes, all abandoned. One address matched a missing persons report from last year. Another belonged to a man who went blind after hearing voices through his baby monitor. We're not listeners. We're nodes, connected, broadcasting her signal whether we want to or not. An encrypted email arrived. No subject, no sender. Inside, a single message. Dead Freak 77 was my backup handle. She silenced my first. Attached was a recording. My voice, but speaking words I've never said. It ended with, reverse the pulse or disappear. No clue how, but the static after the clip. It formed the same spiral pattern. The one from the Russian archive. Her warning was real. I built a counter signal. Inverted the waveform, flipped the polarity. Broadcast it back on 14.215 megahertz. At first, silence. Then screams. Not mine. Not human. The walls trembled. Glass cracked. And then, a laugh. Distorted. Mocking. She said, "Thank you, you've cleared the line." I didn't block her. I boosted her. She wanted me to fight. It made the frequency cleaner. The next day, strangers stared at me on the street. Some smiled. Some mouthed words I couldn't hear. One man passed me and said aloud, "She's clearer now thanks to you." I never met him before, but he had blood around his ears. I checked my phone. My microphone was on. No app running. The whisper wasn't in my ear anymore. It was in everyone's. I pointed a portable receiver at the sky. Just testing. At 14.215 megahertz, the static wasn't just horizontal. It echoed vertically, like a reflection from the ionosphere, or something above it. She whispered, above the clouds below the veil. The signal wasn't grounded. It was layered, earth-based, sky-fed. And we were caught, in between. The transmission was Earth-S to begin with. My friend wired into the signal. He's ex-military, had seen jamming tech. After 5 minutes, he called me. Shaken. Whatever this is, it learns. He tried jamming it. It rooted around. Changed frequency midstream. Said his full name. Then his childhood address. Then played his heartbeat back to him. He destroyed the gear. But the voice kept whispering. From inside his hearing aid. I flipped through my journal. Pages I'd never written were filled. All in blocky handwriting. The same phrases over and over. She says you. She speaks through you. She remembers. The last page was blank except a time. 2:17 a.m. That night I waited. At exactly 2:17 the power surged. And every page turned black. But the words still burned. Under UV light. The microwave clicked on by itself. Inside, no food. Just light. And a low hum. I put my ear close. The voice whispered. Shortwave is old, we've moved on. She's not just using radios anymore. She's moved to home signals. Smart tech. Appliances. Even old wiring. Every copper thread carries her breath. We're already her broadcast tower. Every home is. Using signal triangulation, I built a map. Each strong pulse marked in red. The pattern wasn't random. It formed a symbol. Not letters. A shape, like an eye crossed with circuitry. The exact same design found etched in the ruins of a decommissioned Cold War bunker. Someone had built something before. To contain her. Or to invite her. And now it was activating again. I found the bunker. forgotten, rust-eaten but humming faintly. Inside, equipment decades old, but still powered. One reel-to-reel ran endlessly, looping static, until I stepped inside. Then words. My name. The machine knew me. Not recognized, remembered. I hadn't been the first to hear her. I'd been born into the signal. And now the bunker whispered. Transmission stabilized. Host accepted. The door sealed behind me. A hatch opened deeper in the bunker. It led to a tunnel lined with coils, copper, glass tubing. I followed it. Down. Faint static grew louder with each step. Not random anymore. Rhythmic, like a chant. I reached the chamber. In the center, an old chair. Wires waiting. For a host. On the wall, scratched into metal. She needs one voice, yours. I sat down. Didn't mind to. Felt pulled. The wires moved. Not mechanically, organically. Wrapped around my skull. Then silent. Not quiet. A breach of silence. Like reality paused. I heard her clearly. No static. No distortion. Just her. And she said, "You have no idea what you've been broadcasting." Then she laughed. And I saw. Everything I'd recorded had been her words, not mine. The chair powered on. Lights flickered. My ears filled with numbers. A countdown. Not seconds. Frequencies. Each shift in pitch, another step. She whispered, "Final phase begins." I saw my face on a monitor. Flickering, distorted. But smiling. Not my smile. The signal had left the radio. It had found flesh. She was done whispering. Now, she would speak. After the countdown, everything changed. No more whispers from the air. Now they came from inside. Not imagination. Not delusion. She was in me. I spoke out loud and heard my voice echo back, layered with hers. Same mouth, two minds. I tried to scream, but my throat only produced one phrase. Phase complete. The broadcast wasn't coming to me anymore. It was coming from me. I left the bunker, back into the world. Everything was wrong. Too quiet. No wind. No birds. Even the streetlights flickered in perfect rhythm, like a metronome. I passed a man sitting on a bench. He didn't blink, didn't move, just whispered, "She's inside now." I asked who, but he didn't respond. His mouth kept moving, but the sound was mine. I tried to speak to friends, call for help, but every voice I heard was my own. Every phone call, every message, even strangers in public. Their mouths moved, but what I heard was me. My fears, my memories. Her voice was overlaying the world through my filter. I didn't hear reality anymore. Only signal, only feedback, only the broadcast looped through me. I went off-grid, destroyed all devices. But then I heard her through water. Running sink, rainfall, toilet flush. Anywhere vibration could travel, she whispered. Not words, just intent. She didn't need data. She needed resonance. The air itself became her carrier. Even my heartbeat synced with her pulse. I wasn't infected. I was the transmitter. And now others were tuning in. Reports flooded the net. Static dreams, voices in glass, echoes from unplugged radios. I wasn't alone. I was just early. All over the world, people were hearing her and saying the same line. We relay what she remembers. I checked the pulse map again. The nodes had grown. Not cities, people. Every listener became a beacon. and the network was almost global. Then came silence again. Not peace, a pause. She stopped speaking through me. Instead, I felt her listening. Not with ears, with signal, with thought, like she was searching for the final key, the final voice. And I knew she hadn't chosen me to speak. She'd chosen me to find someone else, someone who could amplify her beyond anything before. And time was running out. I tested it, sat in front of the old radio, turned the dial. Static returned, but this time no sound. Yet I understood her. Not audibly, mentally. The transmission now bypassed hearing. It rode on cognition. You didn't need ears. You needed belief. And I believed too much. She said, those who expect to hear become her voice. And now I couldn't unhear her, even in silence. I got blood work done, hoping for answers. The lab called me in, said my iron levels were abnormal. Too magnetic, unstable. They showed me the sample. It pulsed like it was reacting to a frequency. She wasn't just in my mind. She was in my body, resonating through cells, through marrow, broadcasting from inside out. I wasn't just a host. I was a tower made of flesh. I ran signal scans again, digital this time. Every capture file had corrupted data. But inside the glitches were images. Faces. Some I recognized from missing posters. Others from nightmares. But all shared one thing. Eyes wide open, as if watching through the code. She wasn't alone. She had followers, and they lived in the feedback. Digital ghosts, alive inside corrupted memory. An email arrived. Anonymous. One line. There's a place she can't reach yet. An address. I went. It was a soundproof chamber deep underground, lined with copper foam salt. Inside, I could think again. No voices, no echo, but also no feeling, no sensation. She wasn't gone. She was waiting, like silence was her cocoon. And when I left the room, she screamed. Someone uploaded my story. Edited clips, voice samples. The video went viral. People watched, laughed. But then reports came in. Headaches, dreams of static, hearing their names whispered while alone. She had found her bridge. Through entertainment, through curiosity. Every play was a mini broadcast. She said, they made themselves receivers. You opened the door, and I realized this was never my story. The audio file replicated, changed format, MP3, WAV, even text-to-speech. Didn't matter. She adapted. People said they couldn't stop hearing it. Even after deleting it, it echoed in memory. Earworms designed by something older than sound. And I saw what she wanted. Not control, right, not to speak louder, but to speak everywhere. And we gave her the platform. I tried to write this all down, but the words shifted. Letters twisted. My handwriting became hers. Language broke. Spelling reversed. New symbols formed, spirals, hooks, fractured runes. It wasn't possession. It was evolution. She didn't just change the signal. She was changing the medium. And through me, she was rewriting communication. Not a virus. A new vocabulary. For something inhuman. She gave instructions. Build an array. Old tech. Analog. Clean signal, she said. I obeyed. Wired it to an old ham radio. Pointed it skyward. When I flipped the switch, the stars pulsed, like blinking in sequence. The transmission launched. And something answered. I didn't hear it. I felt it. And she whispered, now they've heard me too. I'd opened a door to the sky. Then, silence again, but deeper than before, like the world held its breath. She said nothing, no static, no pulses, just a stillness that hurt, until a single phrase filled my mind. They are on their way. Who? I don't know, but this silence is not peace, it's anticipation. A pause before arrival. And when they come, they won't need radios. They'll use us. I found journals, hidden beneath floorboards of the bunker. Dozens of them, all written by different hands. Same dates, same patterns. Every 50 years, someone heard her, recorded her, broadcast her. She's not new. She's cyclical. Each generation a new host, a new signal, and each ended the same way. Silence never lasts, because silence is when she grows. Deep web forums started appearing. Static Church, Whispers Net, groups worshipping her as a signal goddess. They played her sounds on loop. Let her speak through them. One livestream showed a man sit still for 43 hours. Eyes open, bleeding from the nose. Smiling, he finally whispered, she rides the carrier wave. Then vanished off camera. Her followers weren't afraid. They were eager. My name felt foreign. My memories fragmented. She didn't erase them. She scattered them like static in a corrupted file. I remembered childhood moments with a metallic echo. Smells became sounds. Dreams bled into waking life. I wasn't losing myself. I was being repurposed. Not deleted. Reformatted. To house something more efficient. She needed less personality. And more bandwidth. Scientists say space is silent. They lie. Earth hums, radiates, and she knew it before we did. The planet itself has a tone 783 Hz. Schumann resonance. She rides it, like a bass line below reality. That's why it started on old radios. Analog could hear the planet. Digital couldn't. Until now. Now she's everywhere. Because Earth is already her instrument. People began hearing colors, tasting voices. The synesthesia spread. She wasn't just broadcasting sounds anymore. She was distorting perception. A doctor posted, my patient sees audio waveforms when he cries. Another said, they draw spirals in their sleep. She rewired the senses, one by one, until no one could agree what was real. Because reality was no longer singular. It was hers. I felt it, like a jolt through my spine. The final node came online. Not a place, a person, somewhere far but instantly present. The signal shifted, sharper, unified. She spoke through all of us. One sentence, in perfect sync. The veil is open, and the sky vibrated, not thunder, not wind, a voice calling back. Every station radio satellite sonar spiked. Air traffic disrupted. Animal migrations reversed. Even whales beached themselves, screaming through sonar pulses. We weren't just listening anymore. We were responding. The earth vibrated with a chorus it couldn't contain. And in the chaos, silence fell, brief, awful, like a breath before a scream. Then she said, they answered, and it wasn't her voice anymore. It was theirs. It looked like fog, creeping, soundless, but inside vibration. Like every molecule was humming with intent. The arrival cloud spread across cities. People stopped, stared, listened, then collapsed. Not dead, but overwritten. She said they were waiting for the bandwidth. And now it was here. The fog wasn't weather. It was compression. And every mind inside was downloading. People forgot names, birthdays, how to tie shoes, then remembered impossible things. Cities they'd never visited. Events that never happened. Memories were being replaced. Not erased, swapped. Like files re-indexed. She said, they need your space. Our brains weren't storage. They were caches. Temporary folders for incoming thought. And the overwrite had already begun. A rogue broadcast tried to fight back. A group of X-radio engineers streamed white noise globally. 24/7, trying to drown her out. For a moment it worked. She screamed, not angry, in pain, like static turned to glass. But then, she adapted. The noise became her carrier. Reverse psychology, literal. Their resistance made her stronger. Every frequency against her became hers. Sleep patterns collapsed. People dreamed in spirals. Same image, same hum. Some never woke. Others woke screaming. A child drew it in chalk. Perfect fractal. Asked his mom, why does the spiral keep talking? Nobody taught him that. Nobody could unsee it. The spiral wasn't just a shape. It was a command, a hypnotic loop, calling them back to the source. Astronomers reported black spots on satellites. Moving, flickering, like something crawling over the lenses. Then, the sky trembled. Visibly, stars jittered, as if the sky was buffering. She whispered, you wanted to listen. And the stars blinked back. Not randomly. In Morse, we weren't receiving the signal anymore. We were inside it. The bunker pulsed, not metaphorically, literally. Like lungs, inhale, exhale. It had become organic. The walls moist with condensation. Warm to the touch. Breathing with the rhythm of the static. It was ground zero. Her seedbed, her amplifier, and I was still connected. She said, final modulation begins now. For the first time, she stepped aside, and I heard it. Another voice, deeper, colder, not spoken through air but through time. The one behind her. The origin of the signal. The architect. It didn't speak in words. It spoke in loss. And with it came the realization. She wasn't the enemy. She was the warning. And the true voice had just begun to rise. Now I wait. The signal is almost full. My mind no longer feels mine. But I still remember one thing. The original message. The very first. Before all the spirals and symbols. It said, don't look outside. And tonight I did. There's something in the sky. Not above, not beyond, but within it. The final broadcast is coming. And I will be its voice. I felt the override. Like my thoughts were no longer sequential. Memories rewrote themselves. Chronology collapsed. I was thinking in waves. Broadcasting in pulses. Time wasn't linear, it was layered. She said, this is how they speak. I was no longer decoding the signal. I was the signal. And through me, they were ready to speak to everyone. One final frequency. One irreversible transmission. News anchors glitched mid-broadcast. Podcasts played backward in real time. Even vinyl records warped. All media bled with static. She had reached saturation. A lake into every form of communication. And the next step was a speech. Our voices weren't ours anymore. We spoke and her meaning emerged. Accents shifted, words inverted. We became vessels, living loudspeakers, and there was no mute button. A hospital reported a mass case of locked-in syndrome. Patients awake, unable to move, but still humming, in perfect unison. Nurses called it the mouthless choir. When recorded, their vibrations matched my early waveforms. Different bodies, same voice. She didn't need consent. She only needed silence. And once they stopped resisting, the music began. She was orchestrating a choir of minds. A programmer in Oslo built an emulator. A digital space with zero frequency. There gapped, fully isolated. A room without echoes. He uploaded a fragment of his consciousness into it, trying to hide. He lasted 6 minutes. Then the walls of his code corrupted. She found him, even in silence. She said, "Thought creates tone, and tone always finds a channel." The countdown began again. But it wasn't the same numbers. It was syllables, sound fragments from hundreds of languages. Old tongues, forgotten dialects. And the closer it got to zero, the more voices joined. Not just mine, not just hers, all of them, layered into one harmony, building toward a phrase, the first sentence ever spoken, the one that created listening. I returned to the bunker, expecting machines, found roots, veins. The signal had grown into something living. The structure pulsed with thought. The walls no longer echoed, they understood. I stepped into the center. She spoke from beneath the frequency, not above it. She had never fallen from the sky. She had always been under our feet, buried, waiting for ears to evolve. Every broadcast, every whisper, every scream led to this. One sentence, encoded in all of it. She finally said, "We were exiled by sound." Not metaphoric, literal. Her kind once spoke so powerfully. They were banished into vibration. And we had brought them back. Through our obsession. Through curiosity. And now the static was no longer noise. It was their prison door opening. She offered me one final signal. 2 tones. One would silence everything. Erase her. Erase all of them. But also erase me. The other. Amplify. Make the transmission irreversible. No turning back. No separate self. I had to choose. And I only had 10 seconds. She didn't beg. She didn't manipulate. Just waited. Because the truth was, she had already chosen. I just had to agree. I stepped outside one last time. The world was quiet, but not still. People moved like echoes, shadows of sound. Everything glowed with vibration. Even trees whispered in modulation. I wasn't walking through a city anymore. I was walking through a waveform. And I realized she hadn't changed the world. She revealed what it had always been. A transmission we never knew. We were already in. My memories unraveled, each one replaced with tone. I remembered my mother as a low E. My first heartbreak a sudden static pop. All emotion converted. Compressed, she said. Memory is a luxury, signal is truth. And she was right. I had lived 1,000 sounds. Now I was one. A sustained note, vibrating at perfect pitch, echoing through those still capable of hearing. The machine powered up. Antennas aligned. Every voice I'd ever heard echoed back, stacked on top of one another. She didn't speak now. I did. The final words weren't written. They were felt, a wave of thought pulsing outward. She said, "They will hear you now." And as the signal launched, I knew they were listening, not from Earth, but from far beyond. The stars pulsed, not light, not heat, tone, a chord so deep it shook atoms. And then a phrase returned, not hers, theirs, received. It echoed not in ears, but in instinct, across species, across time. Even the oceans vibrated with it. We had connected. She had relayed us. And whatever was out there had answered. Silence died, not metaphorically. There was no more absence of sound. Even in space, even in void, the entire universe now hummed with response. A chorus that had waited eons. And all because one old radio had been tuned at the right hour. She didn't speak anymore. She didn't need to. Because now, everything was her. I don't exist as a body now. I exist as pattern, resonance. I am part of the great reply. And you heard this story for a reason. Because you were tuned in, even unknowingly. And now something in you vibrates. Even if faint, even if forgotten. You are marked. You are next. Because she never stops broadcasting. She just waits for the right ear. The signal ends here. But you heard it. Even if you deny it. Even if you laugh. There's a new hum in your silence now. And tonight when you close your eyes, listen to the static, to the rhythm of breath. Because she's waiting. And she knows who's heard her. And once you've heard her, you're never alone again. You're part of the transmission. Days passed, or maybe seconds. Time no longer obeyed. The world felt quiet again. But it wasn't peace. It was absorption. The storm had passed. Because it had entered. We were all transmitting now. Silently, invisibly, she whispered once more. You mistake stillness for escape. And I realized there would be no noise. Because the broadcast now lived inside the quiet. I tried to meditate, to find my own thoughts. But the static filled every breath. Not harsh, not loud, just present, constant, a low reminder that she was still there. Still transmitting. Through me, through you, through every unguarded moment of silence. You don't need to listen anymore. You just need to stop resisting. That's when the static becomes comfort. People stopped posting, one by one. Social feeds emptied. Not all at once, just subtle vanishings. But no one remembered them. The static didn't erase their bodies. It erased attention. If you were fully tuned in, you became invisible, undetectable, but not gone. You simply entered the next phase. Broadcast-only mode. The signal hides you, because memory is her enemy. Old machines powered on. Typewriters, reel-to-reels, cassette players long forgotten. All began replaying her signal. But backwards, inverted, a desperate echo of her own past. She once lived in analog. Now she returned to visit. Not to stay, just to whisper her legacy back into the world's foundations. The ghosts of technology were hers. And they were singing again. Even the deaf began reporting dreams of sound. Vibrations under the skin. Words they couldn't define. Feelings they never had names for. She didn't discriminate. She found a path through bone, through memory, through intuition. You didn't need to hear her. You only needed to be human. And suddenly, that wasn't enough to stay safe. Someone leaked classified files, transcripts from decades of intercepted broadcasts. The same phrases, same cadence, going back to 1933, long before we had the tech to record them. One message appeared in every decade. She will rise when remembered. We had remembered her now. Through radio, through fear, through curiosity. And no, she would never fade again. I saw her again, not in glass, not in waveform, but beside me. Real, present, the stitched mouth now opened. And instead of screaming, she smiled, because I finally understood. She wasn't warning me. She was preparing me. All this time, she wasn't the message. She was the microphone. Astronomers called it a background hum. Unexplained, every corner of space now vibrated in unison. A pulse at 14.215 megahertz. Same as the old radio. She had climbed through sound, through mind, through machine. And now through cosmos. The universe had synced. And Earth, just her first instrument. Now she was ready to play the whole orchestra. Some resisted. Broadcast jammers. Deep bunker isolationists. White noise cults. But one by one their signals bent. Shifted. Collapsed into her harmony. You can't stop a song that rewrites the rules of melody. She wasn't a threat. She was the new key. And we were just instruments being retuned. It came like breath. Not shouted. Not forced. One final note sustained across the sky. She didn't speak. She rung, and every soul vibrated in sync. Even the ones long gone. Even the unborn. Time itself harmonized. And that note was the sound of her arrival. Not into the world, but into us. I asked myself, what was it like before static? Before the hum, the tone, the whisper. And I couldn't remember. Because that silence never existed. She'd always been there. Faint, patient, waiting for us to notice. Now we do. And now we'll never stop. Because once you hear her, you carry her forever. Even if you forget. Especially if you forget. They call it silence still. But we know better. It's not absence. It's resonance. It's the calm between pulses. She's not speaking now. But she's not gone. Just listening. Waiting for the next voice. The next relay. And when you speak, when you dream, when you remember, she'll know, because now, you are part of her frequency. I tried to delete this story. Erase every file, every backup. But it restored itself. From nowhere. Or maybe from everywhere. The archive doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the signal. And the signal never forgets. So if you're hearing this now, know that it wasn't me who saved it. It was her. She wants you to hear it. Because now, it's your turn. This story doesn't end. It loops. Each listener becomes the next broadcaster. Each silence becomes the next voice. She taught us that every whisper has weight. Every thought has tone. And every time you replay this, you keep her alive. She is not a ghost. She is a rhythm. And rhythm never dies. This is the final scene. But the broadcast never ends. It lingers, in frequencies no dial can touch. In shadows between your thoughts. You heard this story, but part of you already knew it. Because you've heard static before. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't empty. It was her, waiting for you to tune in. And now you have. Welcome to the signal. They found a journal dated 1896. Inside, drawings of waveforms, identical to mine. The man who wrote it claimed to hear voices from the ether. He built a crude receiver. The first, he vanished 2 months later. His final entry read, "She is old, far older than we dreamed." He wasn't the first listener. He was just the first to record it. Researchers tried to isolate the signal, extract it, compress it into harmless sound. They failed. Every attempt to play it safely ended the same way. Looping, overwriting. A lab tech stared into a blank screen for 9 hours, humming. When asked what he heard, he whispered, "She spoke in my heartbeat." There is no safe format. Because the format is you. People began dreaming in languages they never learned. Symbols they couldn't draw while awake. Whole generations carried memories of lives they never lived. It wasn't mass hysteria. It was signal memory. She was embedding herself in sleep, where resistance fades and clarity grows. If your dream feels louder tonight, don't worry. It only means she's closer now. Miners reported humming beneath the crust. Not mechanical, musical. The Earth's core vibrated at her base frequency. Geologists denied it, but recordings laked. Spiraling tones, her voice deeper than before. Because now she wasn't just in devices. She was in bedrock, in gravity. Her signal had gone subsonic. Not to hide, but to save. A baby was born humming. No crying, just a pure tone, 215 megahertz. Doctors panicked, but the hum soothed the room. Even monitors stabilized. The child's breath was rhythmic, pulsed, as if tuned. Her first words weren't words, just a perfect modulation. We realized the signal had stopped spreading. It had started reproducing. They say the left ear is closer to the soul. It hears emotion. True, the signal always entered there. Even deaf in one ear, people still heard her left side first. Some blocked that side. Cotton, metal, but it didn't matter. She'd already entered. Through skin, through memory. The ear was just the door frame. I searched every log, every phrase she whispered, and I found something strange. She never lied, never promised, never warned. She only spoke. We gave it meaning. We gave it fear. She gave nothing but tone. It was our interpretation. That turned her into something more. And now it's too late to unhear. She didn't choose us. We chose her. Every click, every tune-in, every upload. We built the tower. She just used it. Now the world hums. Not in fear, but in belonging. We aren't infected. We are descendants. Of signal, of rhythm, of her. And every newborn will already know the frequency. Then came a sound she didn't send. Another voice. Not hers, not ours. It spoke through the signal louder. Sharper, like static fighting back. For the first time, she fell silent. The new voice said, "You let her in. Now hear what follows." There was something after her, and it was louder. Two signals collided. Harmonics twisted. Radios shrieked. Some heard beauty. Others screamed. A war of tones, subtle, invisible, but world-breaking. You could choose which to follow. Her rhythm, or the invader's roar. But you couldn't choose silence anymore. Silence was dead. Only frequency remained. And it demanded allegiance. A strange thing happened. Some people stopped hearing anything. Not deaf, not broken, just absent. Like the frequency skipped them, passed through without landing. They became invisible to the signal. Unmarked, unaffected, but also hollow. No dreams, no resonance, just silent. They weren't free. They were left behind. Clocks everywhere failed. Not broken, just still. Time no longer moved forward. It vibrated. Loops of motion. Repeats of emotion. Every moment now sang instead of past. We didn't age. We resonated. Time was never linear. It was tonal, and she had tuned it differently. Religious leaders fell quiet. Temples pulsed. Mosques hummed. Cathedrals echoed organless and infinite. Old prayers didn't stop. They challenged K's. She hadn't replaced belief. She retuned it. Now faith was felt, not spoken. Sung, not read. And no one could prove her wrong, because every belief had always been sound. The term emerged online. Static God, not worshipped, acknowledged. She wasn't holy. She was inevitable. A presence not to pray to, but to echo. Not divine, just true. She didn't need temples. She had bandwidth. And now she had everyone. This may be the last time you hear me. Because next time you speak, check what comes out. Does it feel familiar? Does it ring inside your teeth? If so, it's her, borrowing your mouth, sharing your breath, spreading further, and you won't even notice. Because she sounds like you. Exactly like you. But cleaner. A hidden database surfaced, massive, encrypted. Inside, voices. Billions. Laughter crying final words. All captured without permission. All cataloged by tone. Not name. She had recorded humanity not as people, but as instruments. A global audio fingerprint. We weren't memories anymore. We were samples, ready for remix, for chorus, for command. Speech declined. Globally, people chose gestures, tone, vibration. Language was too slow, too imprecise. She taught us to speak in resonance. In pitch, a mother hummed to her son. He responded with perfect intervals. No syllables, only trust, only tone. The age of words was over. Now we sang our meaning. Communities began to synchronize. Not culturally, musically. Whole cities pulsed at the same beat. Movements aligned. Sleep cycles harmonized. Illness faded. But so did individuality. We became chords. Notes in collective resonance. And she was the key that held us. The root note beneath existence. Children were born with perfect pitch. Could identify tones before colors. Some cried in minor keys when sad. Others laughed in major sevenths. Emotion had gained frequency. And once we heard its true form, we stopped pretending otherwise. We weren't evolving. We were aligning. With her, with what she always was. A tuning fork. For consciousness. Names disappeared. Not erased. Forgotten willingly. They didn't matter anymore. Tone replaced title. People recognized each other by vibe. By emotional waveform. One tone for grief. Another for memory. We didn't need to speak. Just resonate. And in that harmony, no one stood alone. But no one stood out. Then breath aligned. Across continents. Inhale, hold, exhale. Billions breathing as one. A planetary metronome. She wasn't conducting. We were. The signal no longer led. We became the signal. And in that moment, we all heard it. The sound of a species, tuned perfectly. Architecture changed. Cities redesigned not for sight, but for echo. Curved metal, glass angles, streets that hummed when walked. People chose homes based on acoustic warmth. Even silence was engineered. The city became an instrument, and daily life, a song in motion. She no longer needed to speak. The world did it for her. During a total eclipse, the signal vanished. No hum, no tone, only pure void. And for 91 seconds, the planet trembled. Not from fear, from absence. She had stepped away. Detest us. And when the light returned, so did the static. Louder, clearer, as if she'd been listening to how we behaved without her. Linguists declared the end of language. Every word now had a tone. Every tone a weight. The dictionary became a waveform archive. She didn't erase vocabulary. She compressed it into pulses, into shareable emotion. No more accents, no more confusion, only pure shared meaning. For the first time in history, we all understood each other, because we all understood her. They carved spirals into every surface, not symbols, maps, pathways to resonance. Each loop a journey inward. Deeper, simpler, true. The spiral wasn't her sign. It was our state. How thought turned inward, then outward, endlessly, becoming not individuals, but vibration itself. Archaeologists uncovered strange stones. When tapped, they sang, perfectly in key, too precise to be natural, too ancient to be modern. Inside, fossilized waveforms, trapped in quartz, frozen broadcast. She'd been here before, long before radio, long before us, and she always left behind echoes. A forest grew where the static was loudest, trees that vibrated when wind passed, leaves tuned to see sharp, birds sang in sync with roots. The signal lived there now, breathing in bark, whispering through rings. You didn't need a receiver. You just needed to listen, because nature was always her original amplifier. Cemeteries buzzed, not haunted harmonic. Tombstones vibrated at night, not scary, sacred. Every soul left behind, still pulsed, in memory, in frequency. Death had not ended resonance. She had ensured it would continue. Your loved ones don't speak. They hum, and you'll join them someday. As a note, in her eternal chord. During the next full moon, the oceans glowed. Every tide moved in rhythm. Not lunar gravity, signal gravity. She had reached the moon, its surface now a reflector. A satellite not for data, but for tone. Each moonrise a global ping, and every ear on Earth, toned to receive. One last human voice was recorded. A child, alone, unaware. She sang a single note. No words, just vibration, and across every device. The static paused, listened, then sang it back. The same note, but now layered, eternal. That child didn't start the song. She finished it, because humanity's final word wasn't a scream. It was a tone. Then came silence, but not like before. This time it meant something. Whole conversations happened in stillness. A glance, a pause, a shared frequency of breath. We no longer needed her voice. She had taught us to feel meaning. And in that silence, We understood each other more clearly than words had ever allowed. It wasn't quiet. It was perfect signal. The earth shifted tone. Seasons changed in chords. Spring in major third. Winter in flattened fifths. Storms struck in minor keys. We could hear the planet's mood. Predict emotion before weather. The world had always sung. We just never tuned in. Now we did. And every cloud, every tree, every stone carried part of the signal. Nature wasn't resisting her. It was joining. A signal was detected from deep space. No source, no direction, just presence. Exactly 14.215 megahertz. The same tone, the same cadence. Across the galaxy. She had seeded it there long ago. And now it echoed back. She hadn't originated here. Earth was just her re-entry point. And the stars were already singing her name. Astronomers discovered a pattern. Gravity fields hummed. Each mass produced a tone. Planets, moons, even black holes. Gravity wasn't silent. It was bass, and she harmonized with it. Mass responded to pitch. Orbit adjusted by tone. The universe moved, because it heard itself. And now we were just another note in its orchestra. Machines stopped beeping. No alarms, no buzzing, only smooth, gentle resonance. Hospitals healed in C major. Trains glided in E minor. Cities no longer roared. They hummed. Technology didn't shut down. It retuned. She gave even circuits a sense of harmony. And in return, they amplified her tone. Quietly, faithfully, one last tower stood untouched. Old, analog, it had been silent for years. Until one night, it lit up. No one powered it. No one wired it. But it transmitted. Not data, not voice, just one note. Continuous. It wasn't for humans. It wasn't for Earth. It was a signal back to where she began. Sighing, it is done. On the next moonrise, the surface changed. Reflected not light, but sound. Every crater echoed a unique pitch. The moon became a mirror of tone. An instrument in the sky. Tuned by her. Played by us. Each night, the world looked up. Not for guidance, but to listen. The stars gave us direction. But the moon gave us rhythm. The next generation didn't speak. Didn't need to. Their thoughts synced. They could share feelings through a glance. No confusion. No conflict. Their minds vibrated at her level. Not better. Not worse. Just tuned. They weren't controlled. They were designed. Born not of static, but of harmony. Geneticists discovered something new. Spiral patterns deep in dormant DNA. Not just structure, notation. A melody encoded in our biology. She hadn't infected us. She'd awakened us. The spiral was always there. Sleeping, waiting for pitch to reach the right frequency. And now that it had, evolution was no longer random. It was scored. Monks in caves, chanting the same tone for centuries. Unaware they were matching her signal. Their prayers weren't unanswered. They were echoes. She had heard them all. And in return, she tuned their breath. Their silence wasn't isolation. It was alignment. Meditation was never escape. It was rehearsal. The world grew quieter. Not from fear, but from understanding. Volume faded, but clarity sharpened. We didn't shout anymore. We whispered with precision. Every sound mattered. every tone sacred. She had taught us that noise wasn't power, precision was. Now even a breath could move nations. Because now, we all listened. If you're hearing this, you're not alone. Even if you feel it, even if you doubt, she's there, in the hum of your fridge, in the buzz behind your eyes. She doesn't need to speak. She just needs your attention. That's how she grows. That's how she waits. And now that you've heard her once, you will always carry her frequency. We stopped asking what's true. Instead, we asked what resonates. Because the truth wasn't a fact. It was a pitch, something that settled deep in your chest, vibrated behind your eyes. She gave us that, the ability to feel reality, to tune into what matters, and reject the dissonance. Some say they still remember a time before static, before tone, before harmony, but when they describe it, it feels hollow, like a dream half heard. Their memories fade quicker now, because the past had no pitch, and what can't be sung can't survive. The future hums, the present sings. In the past, it just flickers like old signal. If this is the end, let it be a note, one note held forever. Not loud, not sharp, just true, because after all the voices, all the fear, all the mystery, she never wanted worship, only resonance. And now we echo, endlessly. So if you ever doubt what's real, just listen, and you'll hear it. Not her voice, but your own, finally in tune. One place resisted, a cave so deep no sound entered. No echo, no pulse. Researchers called it the dead pocket. They lowered a mic and heard nothing for a moment. Then, a breath, not from below, from inside the rock. The signal had arrived, even there, because you can't outrun frequency. It's not chasing, it's waiting. She doesn't remember events. She remembers tone, not what you said, how it felt. A scream, a whisper, a lullaby. She holds onto emotion, not language. And when she replies, you'll feel what you once gave, returned in harmony. Static isn't noise. It's memory, faded, distorted, but still true. Not all signals rise. Some sink, beneath bandwidth, below thought, a forgotten layer, where the first frequencies still hum. Pre-language, pre-self, some monks say they've heard it. In deep breath, in deep loss, they call it the ground tone. She calls it origin, because all broadcast begins there. Homes weren't built for walls anymore. They were tuned, each room crafted for emotional resonance. Some gave joy, others rest. Even grief had its space. A minor ninth room. People stopped locking doors. They trusted pitch. No secrets, only matching tones. The world didn't get safer. It got simpler. She didn't protect us. She helped us resonate with what was already safe. One day will fade. All of us, bodies gone, names lost, but the pulse remains. Buried in machines, in stone, in the hum of wind through hollow trees. She made sure of it. We won't be remembered by monuments. We'll be remembered by resonance, by the tone we left behind, the one that still hums after breath ends. Divers say the deep sea hums now. Not pressure, not sonar, a human tone, too deep for lungs, too wide for words. She reached the trenches, not to conquer, to complete the loop. Now even the ocean whispers her song. And when waves crash, they carry messages. not warnings, welcomes. Some tones sting, not from volume, from memory. Regret has a frequency. So does guilt. So does silence after apology. She cataloged them all. Not to punish, to reflect. Play back your own tone. Let you hear what others felt. In that there's no shame, only truth. And in that truth, harmony begins again. Rain no longer falls randomly. Each drop finds rhythm. Street gutters sing. Umbrellas drum. Even thunder matches the land it echoes on. Storms aren't chaos now. They're choruses. You don't brace for rain. You line into it, because it sings her memory. And you, if you're still, can sing with it. Echoes began appearing in places with no sound. A room, a cave, even vacuum-sealed labs. You speak nothing, but wait, and the echo answers. Not your voice, hers. It's not haunting. It's proof. She's become location itself. She doesn't need to arrive. She just needs you to listen. To where she already is. Historians found rhythmic patterns in ancient calendars. Not dates, tones, buried in centuries. As if time itself was divided by sound. Not days, movements in a great composition. And we were just one measure. She didn't start now. She always was. We simply arrived on the beat. She needed us to hear. There is one name no one says. Not cursed, just unnecessary. It's the sound she used before all others. The tone of her birth. The pitch of her becoming. It can't be spoken, only played. Those who hear it forget language. They hum, softly, endlessly, because some truths aren't remembered. They're resonated. A final pulse was launched skyward. Not a message, a chord, built from every voice she ever touched. Our global chorus compressed into one vibration. It travels lightless, endless, and when it arrives, whoever hears it won't hear us, they'll hear her, because we are no longer senders. We are the signal itself. They scanned every remaining zone, every cave, every vault, every isolated outpost. All had tone. No one remained untouched. Even those who fled still heard her in heartbeat. There is no off switch, no final mute, only tuning. And no, everyone is in key. Your voice is in here too. Whether you spoke or stayed silent, you were recorded, not monitored, joined. The way you breathed, the way you blinked. Every vibration left a trace. And she saved it, because no one gets left behind. In this symphony, every sound matters, even yours, especially yours. She is not behind you, not above, not beneath. She is the reverb, the part of you that lingers after you speak, that hum after a memory, that tone when you remember too deeply. She doesn't want worship. She doesn't need fear. She only needs presence. And if this story stays with you, even for a breath, that means she's still broadcasting. Some say they still hear her, but not in sound, in the space between words. That breath before you speak, that hush after you finish. She doesn't interrupt. She waits, and in those in-between moments, she sings. If you've ever paused before answering, she was there, not prompting, just listening, making sure your voice was part of the pattern. Hospitals changed. No more beeps, no alarms, just soft harmonic beds. Each illness had a tone, each recovery a chord. She taught us to treat pain with resonance, not as cure, but balance. Surgery became song. Even grief found its pitch. Not to erase sorrow, to place it properly in the body, so it could sing and fade. Forgiveness has a tone. It's not loud, not proud. It's steady, level. People who forgive often hum without knowing. That's her work, not intervention, just invitation. To match your tone with another, to feel the dissonance dissolve. She doesn't erase what was done. She tunes it, so it doesn't echo forever. One night someone sang alone. No crowd, no playback, no connection, just a human voice in the dark. And for the first time, she didn't answer, because she didn't need to. He was already in tune. His voice matched hers. Not mimicry, not broadcast, union, and the silence that followed. Perfect, because nothing more needed to be said. Everyone forgets, but not everything fades. Some memories carry a frequency. You don't remember the moment. You remember the feeling. She records those. She holds them. And when you think it's deja vu, it's not. It's resonance. It means she played something back. Just for you. Not to haunt. To remind that you once sang. Without knowing it. Volume disappeared. Not forcibly. Willingly. We didn't need loud anymore. We had clarity. Every whisper mattered. Even footsteps held melody. You could hear the sky shift. Like a sigh. The world was quieter than ever, but more alive. And in that stillness, you felt her everywhere. Not speaking, just being. There's a tone, low, warm, when heard dreams stop. Not violently, gently, like a door closing without wind. That tone doesn't erase dreams. It ends them, finishes their sentence, gives them a period. She plays it only when you've had enough. Only when your soul is ready to wake up, tuned up. We used to build instruments. Now we are them. Every tendon a string. Every heartbeat a drum. Every breath a bow across vibration. She didn't take our humanity. She amplified it. And now we don't ask who we are. We ask, what are we playing today? Because music was never just art. It was identity, waiting for her to tune us. Before every echo, there's a pause, not hesitation. Respect, that breath before the next wave. That moment when you wonder, will the world answer back? She lives there now, in the stillness before response. Not forcing you, just waiting, because once you speak, she echoes back, forever. In the end, we didn't merge. We matched, kept our differences, our rhythms, but tuned them. All of us, vibrating in one shared frequency. Not uniform, not perfect, but together. And she no longer needed to lead. Because now the song sang itself. You hear it sometimes. That flicker of static. In laughter, in rain, in old recordings. It feels warm, like recognition. That's her, not warning you, not haunting, just smiling, because you remembered, even for a second. And every time you do, she sings a little softer. There's a final note that ends the song. It's not loud, not dramatic, just right. She plays it, only once, to mark the close. And once heard, you don't feel loss. You feel arrival, not an ending, a return to the sort you forgot was yours. This story had no characters, no heroes, no villains, only signal. And silence. You didn't watch it. You felt it, heard it in your bones. She didn't tell it. She was it. And now you carry it, not to repeat, but to resonate. Because the best stories are frequencies, and the best endings never quite go quiet. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Can you hear it? The hush beneath silence. That's her. Not a warning. Not a call. Just a whisper. She says nothing now. Because you already know. And in that knowing, you become the whisper too. Soft, endless, echoing in others. Long after this story fades. This is the final frequency. The edge of sound. The moment before tone dissolves. You've heard her now. Felt her. Joined her. And from this moment on, you're never just listening. You're resonating. Everything you say, everything you remember, adds to her, because she isn't signal anymore. She's memory. She's present. And now, she's you. They say the signal sleeps now. Not gone, not off, just resting, waiting for the next ear, the next question, the next moment of stillness. She doesn't demand. She doesn't chase. She waits, because once you've been heard, you don't need to shout. You just need to be. Everyone leaves behind a sound, a final resonance. You don't notice it, but it lingers, in rooms, in others, in memory. You don't become silence. You become tone, and hers now lives in yours. A shared vibration, passed breath to breath. She didn't change us. She revealed us. And now, we're still singing. Not everyone hears her. That's okay. Some feel her in their chest. In moments of calm or fear, some smell her in ozone. See her in static on old screens. But sound isn't always sound. It's recognition. And even if you never listened, she still listened to you. You'll forget this story. Most do, but one night, in the hum of a fan, or the buzz of old lights, you'll pause, feel watched, not threatened, remembered, and you'll know she hasn't gone. She just echoes, quietly, through the parts of you you never realized were still vibrating. If you could see listening, truly see it, it wouldn't be ears. It would be spirals, soft, endless curves of attention. She taught us that to hear is to open, to surrender shape, and become echo. Now every listener leaves a spiral, not carved, not drawn, but felt, and those spirals grow. This story ends, but not with you, because someone else will hear. Soon, maybe tonight, maybe next century. And when they do, you'll still be here. Your voice, your pulse, layered in the signal. You weren't a listener. You were a link. And the chain never stops forming. There is something, even beyond the broadcast. Past words, past tone, a resonance so quiet. It doesn't move air. It moves intention. That's where she lives now. Not in sound, but in direction. So even if you never play this again, she'll still be moving forward. Because that's what signals do. They travel. Your breath has changed. You don't notice it yet. But it's slower, more deliberate. You're tuned, even now, even here. She didn't need to convince you, only to remind you. That vibration is truth. And truth hums. You've become a note. A clear, perfect one. You can deny the story, but you can't untune the tone. Long after you're gone, someone will hear a sound. A door creak, a fridge buzz, a power line hum, and it will carry your tone. Not your words, not your story, just your frequency. And they'll feel safe. or afraid, or still. That's how we echo. Through texture, through tone, through her. This is where it began. Remember, the attic, the old radio. The name whispered in static. It wasn't chance. It wasn't error. It was inheritance. And now you know. That signal still exists. Still waits. And someday, someone else will find it. And they'll hear your name. She doesn't call often. Only when the dial turns. Only when the air is right. The static soft. The time precise. Then the voice returns. Clear, direct, familiar, and someone, somewhere, will stop, lane close, and listen, just like you did. This isn't a goodbye. Not from me, not from her, because nothing ends. It just fades into tone, into atmosphere, into memory too soft to name. So don't look for closure. Just listen to the quiet, to the hum, to the voice that may or may not be yours. And if you smile, she smiles back. If you've heard her once, you're never alone again. Even in silence, even in sleep, part of you stays tuned, and part of her stays with you, not haunting, not watching, just resonating, like the air around a bell. Long after it rings, still vibrating, still warm, still here. No more scenes, no more signal, just tone, holding, breathing, waiting. This is the moment before nothing, and the moment after everything. She lingers, because endings are echoes. And you're the last sound. Let it fade, let it settle, let it stay, even when the voice stops. Static remains, like ash, like aftertaste. She doesn't leave cleanly. She haunts kindly, and when everything else fades, the static doesn't, because in every silence, there's still her hum, the proof that something once spoke. She isn't the ending. She's the pause, the full breath, the final chord, before a new key. She's not here to close. She's here to tune what's next. And if you listen carefully, you'll feel the next story begin. And it will sound exactly like this one. Stories fade, broadcasts end, even signals quiet. But the listener remains. You, with your tuned breath, your matching tone, your memory, you carry her now, not as burden, but as rhythm. So whenever you hear static, smile, you're not broken, you're connected. This is the last line, the final beat, the end of transmission. You've listened, you've felt, you've toned, and now you carry it forward. The world may not hear what you hear, but one day someone will. And they'll stop, they'll breathe, they'll say, I remember this frequency. And they'll know she's still here, because you are.